So now we declare war on poverty, or you too can be a Bobby Baker. Now, do they honestly expect us to believe that if we add $1 billion to the $45 billion we're spending, one more program to the 30-odd we have, and remember this new program doesn't replace any, it just duplicates existing programs, do they believe that poverty is suddenly going to disappear by magic? Well, in all fairness, I should explain there is one part of the new program that isn't duplicated. This is the youth feature. We're now going to solve the dropout problem, juvenile delinquency, by reinstituting something like the old CCC camps. And we're going to put our young people in these camps. But again, we do some arithmetic and we find that we're going to spend each year just on room and board for each young person we help $4,700 a year. We can send them to Harvard for $2,700.
The United States debt at almost $22 trillion is dangerously high and constantly increasing. Medicare and Medicaid alone, the United States is $1.1 trillion in debt, and Social Security is $993 billion. The population is 329 million citizens in the U.S., and 167 million are receiving benefits. It's nearly half the population. Despite all of this government spending towards eliminating poverty, 38 million registered citizens are living in poverty today. In 2005, 6.1% of the population used food stamps, and now 13% is on food stamps, and the unemployment rate is lower than it was in 2005. Does that even make sense? Even the United States' most recent former president, Barack Obama, who nearly doubled food stamp spending from $39 billion in 2008 to a projected $85 billion in 2012, failed to contribute to reducing the national debt and poverty. So what is America going to do? For one, they need to do a better job at making people work. It seems simple, but believe it or not, there are over 3 million able-bodied adults, meaning no disabilities, and they are over 18, with no kids either, that are not working, receiving government benefits. This costs the U.S. government about $6 billion a year. Of all citizens using food stamps specifically, only 44% have at least one member of their family working. What happened to the other 56%? Where are they? Why are they not working? A factor contributing to the lack of work enforcement is the use of geographic waivers, where citizens can be exempt from being required to work because they live in an area of high unemployment. This geographic waiver for food stamps only causes more unemployment in certain areas. Therefore, it has proven to be a faulty policy in government welfare by the state of California that has exempted over 800,000 capable work citizens from the work requirement. The state of Maine has already learned its lesson with the work requirement. The amount of food stamp spending became a huge burden on their budget, especially because many citizens didn't work. And the results were astounding once they eliminated the geographic waivers and strictly enforced work requirements for all recipients. The food stamp caseload for able-bodied adults in Maine grew by nearly 150% between 2008 and 2014, which rose from nearly 2 million recipients to around 5 million. After Maine had placed these work requirements on able-bodied food stamp recipients, the caseload among able-bodied adults without dependents plummeted by nearly 80%, falling from 13,332 recipients to 2,678 the year after. If every state can enforce these work requirements for citizens that are capable of having a job, it will greatly reduce unnecessary welfare spending, as seen in Maine. Another reason and main factor for the success spending is the corruption of state officials. The federal government pays for about 75% of welfare spending in the United States, and excluding Medicare, they pay 90% of all means-tested welfare spending. How do they give this money? The rule is that Washington, D.C. sends out blank checks to states where the more people enroll for welfare, the more money Washington has to hand to the state. And that is the reason many states want more people to enroll, because they get more money. But that money doesn't all go to citizens, unfortunately. The current U.S. President Donald Trump is already working on fixing this by eliminating 2 failed block programs, and he wants to raise state-required assistance from 8% to 25%, which could cost state governments around $14 billion a year by 2027, which is actually a modest shift because the federal government still has to spend 75% of all welfare spending. Some Democrats are viewing Trump's food stamp spending cuts negatively, but these cuts are really switching from federal to state government. There are no actual cuts, it's just who is spending the money instead. This action is necessary when looking at the federal debt. States will be less able to ask the federal government for money simply because they have more recipients, so this will reduce corruption. Also, by the way, Democrats have accused Republicans of being racist and discriminatory towards citizens in need of welfare, saying they are misunderstood because many do actually work. No claims here have been made that impoverished citizens do not work enough. Looking at the statistics, though, it's clear that there are some people who are taking advantage, which is just the truth. They also quote Ronald Reagan's term welfare queen, which is a fictitious African American woman taking advantage of the government's money. But this issue is not about race. In fact, white and black citizens have nearly equal amounts of recipients, and very similar to Hispanics too. The issue here concerns both Democrats and Republicans, and that is if you are an American citizen that pays taxes, you deserve to have your hard-earned money go to the greater good of society, not to corrupt officials or lazy people who refuse to work.